Hi, this is post-recording me, and I just want to apologize at the beginning of the video because later on, more towards like 1073 review, the recording started getting really choppy. It would freeze up a lot. So I don't know if any of that happened in the earlier sections. I tried to mitigate it as much as I could later on by pausing recording, giving my computer a second to catch up. But if there's any like stutter steps where I'm saying one thing and then it cuts to me saying another thing mid sentence, it's just my computer being stupid. I explained at the end of the video that it's due to the fact that this is a really long recording. My computer is not meant for that. So yeah, I'll try it next time. I think I'm just gonna record. If I have to do multiple chapter reviews in one, I'm gonna record chapter by chapter, just so my computer doesn't have a complete and utter panic attack. So yeah, apologies again. I'll try to edit around it, add some annotations to what I was saying, cut out any long pauses. But yeah, again, sorry, and I hope you enjoy the video.
Warning: this video spoils the entirety of the chapters covered here within. If you wish to experience them without being spoiled, turn back now. Okay, so before I get into just acting like this is normal weekly stuff, I should address. There are 4 chapters to talk about here, and I have not done a review for One Piece in a month, or more. I think it's been more than a month. There's not really a good reason. I ultimately want to chalk it up to just feeling burnt out of the series and subsequently burnt out of doing the reviews. It's nice to sit down, read a chapter in my spare time, but to be not forced, but to almost force myself to sit down on my computer with my mic, get everything set up, talk about the chapter, edit if I need to, upload it, make a thumbnail, all that. It just feels... It's not fun to do that. It started off really fun when I just got to sit back, play Burning Blood, put some audio over it on my PlayStation, and that was that. But now that I've kind of upgraded the series to this very formal setting, it feels kind of bland and boring to do them weekly, release a 15-minute video, just basically going over the basics of what happened in the chapter and my ever so slight ideas. So I hope that this step back for a month, not recording One Piece or Chainsaw reviews, is gonna kind of help get me back into it, because I do love these series. I haven't done Chainsaw reviews either, so I'm gonna be doing, for this, it's just gonna be a bunch review of the 4 chapters, so 170 through 173. And then for Chainsaw, it's going to be more of an arc review for the arc that was going on in the manga. I don't want to spoil that manga while I'm here, but let's just get into this, because I know everyone's... This is why you clicked on the video, is so I can review the chapters. So chapter 1070, The Most Powerful Beings. So last time that we were here, Luffy and Lucci had fought, or were gearing up, starting their fight, but Lucci had seemingly KO'd Sentomaru. So we start off the chapter, Luffy apologizing to Sentomaru, but he straight up says, "No, I knew it was coming, and I thought I blocked it." And Lucci explains why he did. It wasn't just kill him for the sake of killing, even though Lucci does just love killing, if we remember back to Enies Lobby. But he says, "You're tough, but I need you out of the picture. You outrank us in the command hierarchy. As long as you're conscious, we can't use the Seraphim." So, boom, right there. That's the reason, which was very obvious. He said it in the chapter. And when he goes to attack, Luffy swings a punch, saying, "Gum Gum, booming white whip," and just fucking blasts Lucci. With the note, of course, being the kanji used for white, but the noise sounds like dawn, so it could be a pun for dawn. So, Gum Gum Dawn, booming dawn whip, but I'm going with the TCB as I always do, and that's just what they said. So Luffy hits Lucci, but the momentum that he built up from that just keeps him spinning, and he comically starts drilling into the ground. Because that's something that I really appreciate with Gear 5th, is that Luffy just is a Looney Tunes character now. Whenever he goes Gear 5th, he becomes a Looney Tunes character, and the world is all the better for it. Because I just think it's hilarious when that happens. So you have this super serious fight. Because, like, if Lucci and Luffy fought, like, without Gear 5th being a thing, it's going to be a very serious fight. But with Gear 5th, it's more of a hilarious thing. I'll just stop talking. I'll continue. So we get to see the Seraphims beating up the CP0 agents. Each of them obviously has the skill of the person that they are made from. So the Mihawk or S-Hawk has amazing sword skills. S-Shark has the ability to dive into the ground and use it almost, or exactly as Frankie says, it's a version of the Swim fruit that belonged to Senor Pink way back in Dressrosa. And then we get the big, in my opinion, reveal of this chapter. And it's the fact that Vegapunk can seemingly recreate devil fruits. And as he says straight up, so far it's only been possible to manufacture Zoan fruits artificially. There's also Caesar's smile fruit method, however I consider that unacceptable. I'm fairly certain that with unlimited resources, even special types of devil fruits can be recreated. However, I have yet to confirm whether synthesized fruits can be awakened. I tried my hand at Logias, but they were trickier than expected. There's an alternative for paramecia types. I found you can synthesize a blood additive from a paramecia user's lineage factor that will grant their power once transfused. That's what you see running through their arms. I call it green blood. And then we cut to S. Snake, who is obviously Hancock. And the Seraphim has the mellow or marrow, the love fruit there. So she can do the exact same thing as Hancock and with the exact same effect. And then we also see it with Kumas. So these guys are literally just small versions of the Warlords. So then Vegapunk continues to say, the peak of what our they are the peak of the Seraphim are the culmination of my ideas, the peak of what our science can accomplish. They may very well go down as the most powerful beings in the history of the sea. So, if you think about it, as Vegapunk says, he does not know if the artificial fruits can be awakened like normal ones. But I'm assuming that, say, Kuma's fruit is awakened in the Seraphim, you have a perfect weapon with an awakened devil fruit ability. Now, if fucking Vegapunk were to get his hands on the Nika fruit, then it'd just be over. It'd be over, because then the Hito Nomi model Nika, if he can put that into a Seraphim, then you have a controllable Luffy. And if you can find out how to awaken them, like force an awakening, you have Luffy. You just have Gear 5th Luffy on command. And then we cut back to what happened with Lucci, and he got hit so hard, as one Twitter user said, motherfucker is Wile E. Coyote in a cartoon. He busted through a wall and left a perfect outline. And Lucci uses Shave to go to attack Santamaru again, but Luffy goes big mouth mode, as I will call it, and starts chomping at the ground, attacking Lucci, and then he machine gun outs the pieces, and Lucci takes some of them, punches them, breaks them, doesn't get hit. Luffy then bounces back using a pipe as a, like, bungee cord and uses booming white rocket, and this hits Lucci. He gets the same treatment that Kaido did when he just caved in his stomach and punched, like, through him without actually punching through him. Yeah, this is a comedically dark fight. And Lucci immediately says, "What insane power. I'm losing consciousness. Can't hold on." Lucci gets KO'd in, like, basically KO'd in one punch. And the Hancock Seraphim then shows the Straw Hats to the vacuum rocket because, remember, our main goal is to get Vegapunk and leave the island. And that gets reinforced in the next panels where Luffy is about to leave and Sentomaru says, "Straw Hat, I'm trusting you with Grandpa Punk." And Luffy responds, "You got it. I'll get him off the island no matter what." So then we cut to our group being Chopper, Jinbei, Luffy, and Bonnie. And Luffy is, as I will refer to him, dried. He's old. And this gives us our downside of Gear 5th. Gear 2nd had the downside of if Luffy used it too much, it would drain his lifespan. Gear 3rd had the downside that if he uses it literally at all, his body shrinks. Gear 4th had the no haki for a certain time afterwards. So now we know why Luffy can't just use Gear 5th willy-nilly. So this gives us the reason, because a big, not complaint, but a big question people had about the series going forward after Gear 5th is, like, what's stopping Luffy from just using Gear 5th in literally every fight and just winning? And this is it. If Luffy uses it too much, odds are this is him dying, quote unquote, like he did after the fight with Kaido, or in the middle of the fight when he starts losing the power, then he brings it back. So Luffy can't just abuse it. There are going to come times where I think Gear 4th will be more useful than Gear 5th, because assuming that Luffy can beat the Haki Drain effect, that's automatically going to make Gear 4th a more widely usable and Gear 5th more circumstantial. Much like how Gear 2nd is that to Gear 4th. Gear 2nd right now Luffy has no downside for, but Gear 4th still has the Haki Drain. So, moving on through the chapter, because I know that's what, again, we all want. We cut to the tube and the group traveling through it, and it's a 32-second journey. And the rocket gets there, and that's pretty much it. Just the rocket arrives where it's supposed to. And then we cut back to Lucci, Sentomaru, all them, and Sentomaru is KO'd. And Stussy says our orders are to wait for the Marines, but Lucci says if we wait too long, they'll get away. So this is automatically showing, obviously Lucci isn't just going to listen to what everyone else says. Like, this has kind of been his character for a while. He kind of just does what he wants, and the Marines just deal with it. And then the crew finds out that, yeah, the Marines want Vegapunk fucking dead as fuck, because he's such a big nuisance to them. And then we get the big thing, where obviously Bonnie says that if Vegapunk doesn't turn Kuma back into a normal person, he's dead. And we get the group having some funny dynamics, and Luffy is straight up back to normal. So a minute or two of drained Luffy just lets normal Luffy come back. But then we get to see, oh boy, Seraphim Hancock, some CP0 agents, Seraphim Jinbei, Stussy, Lucci, Kaku, Seraphim Mihawk, Seraphim Kuma, all together, ready to attack. With the exact dialogue from Lucci being, there are 6 Vegapunks left, including the real one. I don't care about the defense system being there. I won't let a single one of those rats scurry off the island. And then, something that I was not expecting when this chapter dropped, we get to see motherfucking Kizaru. And he says, oh my, so the Straw Hat crew has allied itself with Vegapunk. On paper, that should make for a straightforward escape, but boy, are they in for a surprise if they think it'll be that easy. We'll proceed as planned. Get as many warships as possible to Egghead. So he's ordering a buster call on Egghead Island, which is not good. We've seen what a fucking buster call can do. So this automatically puts in perspective, Luffy and the group have to deal with yet another buster call. But this time we get to see, because back last time we saw one, it was, Ennis Lobby, that kind of time. And shit has changed, obviously. The time skip, they've had all their arcs post time skip that we've saw. So seeing them deal with a buster call is going to be really interesting. And I would usually, this would be the part where I do my big, this is what's going to happen, this is what I think is going to happen next, this is my theory, this is this. I don't have to do that anymore. You know why, guys? You fucking know why? Because I'm a bad YouTuber. And I have 4 chapters to go. We're on to the second one. So, going into the second chapter. This chapter dropped when the One Piece card game dropped. And there's a big announcement on the cover of Shonen Jump for it. One Piece kind of just got the spotlight for this week. There's the color spread that I'm using for the eye catch for all these episodes. The card game, Film Red is still a big thing. So, yeah, I have yet to see Film Red. Literally, I'm trying to find somewhere I can watch it, but it ain't working. So, we cut to what the fuck Kuma is doing. And it turns out that he had pawpawed himself to the fucking Red Line. You know that place that he escaped? The Grand Elders. And he kind of got to, like, do whatever the fuck he wanted. He escaped his slavery to the world nobles. Yeah, he went right back. And we see him laid out on the ground, but then he gets up and he looks fucking terrifying. And then we get, obviously, the Marine, not PSA, the Marine radio saying Bartholomew Kuma just appeared out by the Bondala Gate. Deploy all available Marines to his location. Civilians be advised. He is extremely dangerous. Evacuate immediately. He's a man with no shred of humanity. He may serve the Celestial Dragons, but his current purpose and programming are unknown. Do not approach. So that leads to the question of, what is Kuma's play? Is Kuma still indebted to the world nobles? Is he still their slave? Or did the Revolutionary Army overwrite that, but he has another purpose? Odds are it's the other purpose option, but it's always nice to think about the alternatives. And then we cut right back to Egghead. And it's the Marines locking down the island, leaving no escape routes. And then that means, boys, you know what that means. We get some motherfucking groups. We get some motherfucking teams. And just like how in the last chapter we got the big Marine splash page, this time we get the Vegapunks. But not skipping over Lucci and the Marines' dialogue. Lucci says, even with the Seraphim back under control, how are we meant to flush them out? This frontier dome is a real nuisance. And Stussy says, you're determined to ignore the Navy, aren't you, Lucci? With Lucci replying, I refuse to accept Straw Hat as an emperor. So that makes sense for why he was willing to pick a fight with Luffy. He just doesn't see him as an emperor. Which is really, really a good question of what the fuck Luffy would have to do to be an emperor in his eyes. Because, like, even going off of what the world knows, Luffy, Kid, and Law together beat 2 emperors. That gives Luffy at least, like, I am not doing the math, like 66% taking down 1 emperor. When in reality, like, sure, everyone that fought Kaido before Luffy, like, they did a good job. They did the best they could. But nah, dude, Luffy just straight, like, whooped ass. Luffy was the sole reason they won. And then we see Vegapunk apologizing to Sentomaru because what happened to Sentomara only happened because he was so loyal to Vegapunk. And then we get to cut a little bit deeper into the chapter. I am kind of skimming through certain parts. Where Vegapunk asks Quasar to pack all 7 of the people into his ship, being Quasar, Vegapunk, Robin, Usopp, Nami, Sanji, and Frankie. So all of those people are going to go to where Luffy and them are, which was kind of a big thing of like, when is that going to happen? When is our team going to come back together? Because what these arcs like to do, I think I commented on it way back when this arc started, is they like to split the Straw Hats up. We saw at the beginning of Wano where the team was split up, and now we're seeing it here. It gives us the easiest way to explore multiple things at the same time without it becoming too overwhelming, because thing 1 is happening with Group A, thing 2 is happening with Group B. And then we cut right back to the Marines, and Lucci realizes what's going on and says that was sudden. If those deterrents are really going... Oh. It was Kaku. Sorry. But Lucci realizes that what's happening could easily be a trap. And says, doesn't this malfunction seem a little too convenient? And then we get to see, yeah, it's just, like, opened up. Like, the entire, like, shell of what had been holding it all, like, covering everything and hiding it, it just opens. And Lucci orders Kaku to destroy the Thousand Sunny, but if you remember correctly, Zoro is still asleep on that. So while he is sleeping, he feels someone coming, takes out his sword, seemingly, like, still asleep while he does all of this, until, like, the final bit. And he blocks Kaku's attack and asks, who the hell interrupted my nap? Oh, this arc has really kept Zoro low-key, like he hasn't done anything. So it's nice whenever we get a cut of Zoro in any arc where he just kind of is a minor character. Because so far this arc, he has been a minor character. So it's always nice in the arcs where Zoro's a minor character when we get to see Zoro. Because he's just always cool, bro. Anything he does is just badass. It's cold. And just like what happened here, he just never tries. And they try to get the Frontier Dome back online, but the agents are already infiltrating the dome, so there's not a whole lot they can do because the main force is already through. And Shaka realizes that they are targeting the Thousand Sunny, and realizes that they are fighting. One of them is fighting a crew member who's guarding the ship, being Zoro, obviously. And one of the Vegapunk says, if we don't hurry up and back him up, we're going to lose our ride out of here. Which, like, bro, I know there's, like, a whole power scaling thing. Kaku, Lucci, Stussy against the Straw Hats. Ain't no way in hell Kaku is even, like, a warm-up for Zoro. Like, Zoro might have a hard time beating him, but that's mostly just because, like, he's an awakened Zoan user, isn't he? Or at the very least, he's a Zoan user, and those guys are usually the most durable type, other than Logia. But, like, Logias don't do a whole lot because Zoro has swords and armor and that whole thing. Whatever. Point being, like, they're overreacting to Kaku attacking Zoro. And Lilith is all gung-ho. We look at that. We get to go to war after all, having a big old gun. And then our group reunites. And Luffy is questioning, we're already leaving, but we just got here. Come on, let's not rush this. And Usopp saying, I want to stay too, but we can't help since this is a government island. They're all kind of butting heads, you know, how they usually do. And Robin realizes that Vegapunk isn't there. And the reason why is because Bonnie is trying to kill this motherfucker. And she's asking if Vegapunk can turn Kuma back to normal. And he says, no, sorry, I just can't. But there's a reason for that. Which begs the question, what is the reason? Is it due to the red line and why Kuma went back there? I think it is. So I think what's happening with Kuma and all that is going to be slowly pieced together throughout the next few chapters at least. And then, the part of this chapter I forgot about. until I just saw that these panels were coming up. We get to see what's happening with the kid pirates. So, like, we left Law fighting Blackbeard, like, a while ago. Now we just get to follow Kid and Killer and that entire crew. And Killer's trying to wake Kid up, saying, we're near land, should we look around? And Kid says, are you really asking that? When have I ever passed on exploring an island? And Killer knows this, obviously. They're number one, number two of a crew, and says, I know that, but this island is most likely the home of the giants. Elbaf, finishes Kid. And this is going to be so fucking cool if Kid is the one who gets Elbaf. Because obviously I've had this whole, like, idea of when the Straw Hats get to Elbaf, what that's going to mean. But, like, unironically, I kind of don't want the Straw Hats to go because it just feels too obvious. Unless we're going to find out, like, Law and Kid's islands are really close to each other, and Luffy's Egghead just isn't. So they can go to Elbaf next also. And then we get fucking Marines. We're seeing so many different things, bro. And this whole part really just boils down to Garp is going to take some of the Marines, go to Hachinoso, and save Kobe. That's really all this page boils down to. I will say, though, Doll, the Marine lady that we were introduced to a few chapters ago, she's still hot. Like, Oda has no right drawing characters to be this hot, just in general. But that's 1071, done, dusted. And, I mean, this is kind of why I want to save a few chapters to review at once, because some of these times I just don't have things to say about these chapters. Like, that was a good chapter. I like how they're setting up the big reveal with Kuma, why they can't just free Kuma from the robotics. There's gonna be a big reason behind it, and I can't wait to find out. I like seeing Luffy, we get to see the downside of Gear 5th, which, like I said, I was kind of hoping for. So, yeah, that's what I like about the chapter. It's, again, like I said, it's also just always good to see Zoro being a badass, doing shit with, like, minimal effort that impresses us. So, yeah, that was 1071, A Hero's Offensive, and now we're moving to chapter 1072, The Weight of Memory. And I didn't talk about it on the cover story on, I think it was 1070, but it's the Mads making weapons, and on this one, it is the Mads producing deadly weapons, so we have Smile. I can't quite identify anything else, but it's Mads just making weapons. That's pretty much all it comes down to. I will say, though, this cover story still does need to be adapted into the anime before the anime adapts the pudding bit with the Blackbeard pirates, because they legitimately directly tie into each other, and you can't have one and not the other. Just saying. And then we get to see, starting the chapter off, it looks like it's a journal entry. With the dialogue, even if the world does not accept how she came to be, the girl is unmistakably human. It was a success. I bear witness to this achievement, and I maintain that it is a huge step towards world peace. Dr. Vegapunk, Chief of Mads, the Laboratory of Peace. And that's what I mean, is this cover story is playing into the story itself. Obviously, Oda does that a lot. But, like, with Vegapunk reflecting, or us getting a hint at Vegapunk when he was in Mads, but it's in the core story and not in the cover story. If the anime doesn't adapt this cover story, it's just not good. But then we see Bonnie thinks that she might have broke something, and she's on the ground crying. And Vegapunk walks up, asks if she's okay, asks if the medics, asks the medics, check her out, whatever. And then Bonnie uses the, she was a kid when that happened. So she morphs up and uses distorted future to try to take a swing at Vegapunk, but she smashes a wall. And Vegapunk says, Bonnie, stop this. Even if you kill me, But Bonnie interrupts with an attack called Timely Thrust. So, if I'm allowed to venture a guess, all of Bonnie's attacks are going to be like named after something to do with time, distorted future, timely thrust, that thing. Because her whole thing is, again, aging. So, the attack seemingly de-aged Vegapunk because he turns into a child. And, okay. So, like, I'm a level with you guys, right? I figure I should do it now. I don't remember reading this chapter. So this might just legitimately be a first-time read chapter also. And Vegapunk realizes what's happened to him and says, "You turned me into a helpless child. Give me back my golden years." And Bonnie says, "Calm down. My power doesn't last forever on living things. You said you had a reason. Well, you better start talking. Why the hell did you kill my father?" Obviously, in like a metaphorical sense, kill. And Vegapunk says, "But Bonnie, if I tell you," and then we cut back to the fucking red port. I want to find out why Vegapunk can't bring Kuma back to normal. That is it. But they see that Kuma's trying to climb the red line, and all the civilians are saying there's no way he makes it to the top. And we do get Vegapunk continuing. Good. "If I divulge the reason, it would only serve to hurt you. That's why I can't. I promised Kuma that I would keep his secret from you no matter what." Bonnie flips out, as she rightfully has the as she has the right to do. "You're saying you can't tell me why you're saying you can't tell me why you had to kill my dad. Do I look like I was born yesterday? Stop screwing around." And then Vegapunk retorts by saying, "I'm not trying to pull a fast one here. You've got to believe me. Nobody made the decision for him. Kuma chose that fate for himself." And Bonnie retorts, "You liar. Dad would never choose to die and abandon me. I'll kill you." Vegapunk retorts with, "It's been hard on me too. I wish I could forget the whole ordeal. Kuma's an incredible man. I've always been proud to call him a close friend. Bonnie, please understand. I can't say anything more on the matter." And then, while he says that, we get to see the Marines on the Red Line are shooting at Kuma. And, like, I don't think they're going to do shit against him, to be fair. Bonnie fucking throws down Child Vegapunk and says, "Just spit it out. I'm not going to blindly swallow your half-assed excuses." And then a beeping starts, and Bonnie walks away and says, "Pay no attention to what's over there. It's got nothing to do with Kuma, you hear?" And she opens the door, and it's a big-ass rappel that Kuma can make. So the thing that he did back on Thriller Bark, where he dispelled all of Luffy's pain, it just looks like it's one of those. And Vegapunk, we get to find out what it is immediately. In a flashback, Vegapunk says, "Memories?" And then we get Kuma saying, "That's right. The scientists out in West Blue once postulated that a person loses 21 grams of mass upon death, and that could be considered the weight of the soul. Fascinating, isn't it? It's, if nothing else, such a link would prove that the soul does in fact exist." I don't know if it was actually Vegapunk for the first line or second. I'm just gonna level with you. And Vegapunk continues, "And your power can take something intangible like pain and give it a physical form. Not only that, but you can even transfer it to others. A total wireless transmission of nerve signals. So I'm wondering if that same logic could apply to other nervous signals. Can we determine whether things like imagination and memories have mass and volume as well?" And Kuma keeps going, "So you want me to pull out my memories and show you? That's far too personal." And Vegapunk, of course, being the scientist, says, "Please, this will help me advance science. Nobody else would see them, I promise." And Kuma just straight up says no. And Child Vegapunk starts pleading with Bonnie, saying, "Don't touch that. I'm sure you're familiar with Kuma's powers. There's nothing there but pain. It's more than enough to kill someone." And Bonnie says no, and says, "I know my father's ability all too well." And while this is happening, we get a cut in with what's happening with Kuma. He's been blown off the wall. He falls to the ground, and he's still alive. He's still kicking. And he just starts fighting. And Bonnie says they're his memories, aren't they? And then it seems like Kuma is climbing the wall yet again, meaning he probably beat that group of Marines. And we get to go to the Egghead Lab stratum? I can't read it. Again, I'm gonna level with you guys. This is like the most honest I've been in a video for not a long time, but like a decent time. Bro, I'm just straight up dyslexic. I can barely read. I'm gonna be 100% with you guys. I don't know how I ever passed school. Especially English classes, bro. Fuck English classes. And math. School's a scam, pretty much what I'm saying. And then continuing the chapter review after me being a dyslexic idiot. Nami finds out, and I'm gonna assume the entire group, but Nami's just the one to say it, that Lucci has made it all the way up to where they are. And Shaka straight up says, "My apologies, the system malfunctioned." But Usopp is playing like positive, I guess. It's a good thing Zoro and Brooks stay on the ship. There's no way they'd lose. Even if it's 2 against 3, they'll figure something out. And Shaka, being not Usopp, not trying to play like best case scenario, says, "No, look again. The battle is far more lopsided than you think." Yeah, it's because the Seraphim are there. Yeah. It's 2 against 7. It's 2 against 7 now, and they're up against the best of the best. So, yeah, that's interesting, right? And Brooke and Zoro are both completely up, and Brooke asks what the hell Kaku is supposed to be, and Zoro says, reading his dialogue exactly, "Well, he's meant to be a giraffe, but he seems a little different from what I remember. Not that it matters. He's gonna end up diced up. He's gonna end up a diced up corpse anyway." And Kaku, of course, Kaku says, "That's if you can cut me, Roronoa." And Zoro seems like he's going 3-sword style. Look after the ship, Brooke. And Kaku attacks him with nose gun, which with the hair on his back, it reminds me of Lucci's Cloud. So I'm thinking Kaku's awakened, but it's just arm and hockey on the nose, and he smashes into him. And then he partners that up with Giraffe Man Gyro, where he seemingly spins. And Zoro makes the remark, "I had my fill fighting critters while zigzagging attacks back in Wano. I'm tired of it." So he just smashes Kaku's head down, and Lucci orders the Seraphim to attack the lab. And Mihawk and Kuma's prepare attacks. Mihawk slices off a chunk, and Kuma just causes an explosion. And Kaku, back onto the fight, says, "They sure know how to razzle-dazzle. They're basically doing our job for us." And then someone bites Kaku, and he passes out. And it turns out that Stussy did it. Or as the text boxes tell us, clone of Miss Buckingham Stussy of the Rocks Pirates. Mad's first successful clone. Unit 01. Stussy. And she says, "I'm just putting him to sleep. Would you please join him, Lucci? I think it's time for your cat nap too." So, this leads into a whole basket case of things. Cloning is a thing now. Apparently, Mads can do clones. So, that automatically, on Twitter, brought up 20 theories at once, saying this person could be a clone, this person could be a clone, this. One of them said that Luffy is a clone of Roger, and I kind of just don't see it happening. I just don't see that being how Oda goes with this. But the bigger thing that I want to bring up is Stussy is shown to have wings, and she has little fangs, and she put Kaku to sleep by biting him. So, what the fuck is she? Again, one theory I saw was, she has the succubus fruit, and she has, control over men by biting them. And it's it's more likely than Luffy being a clone of Roger, but, I wouldn't say 100%. But yeah, that's the chapter. Really amusing Twitter shit throwing when that chapter dropped. Because when somebody comes up with a theory like those, it's automatically, like, by default met with, no, you're dumb, get smarter. And it was just hilarious to see the absolute shit fest that was going on Twitter. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink. I've been drinking Bai Antioxidant Infusion Strawberry Kiwi. It's so fucking good, bro. I have a hard time telling if the flavor is just really subtle or if it's super strong. It's water, obviously, so it tastes watered down from what it was supposed to be, but, whatever. I don't judge. That's been my hydration for a few days. But moving on to the next chapter. This last chapter I had skimmed, but I didn't read that last part. This one I have not read literally at all. So this is a first reaction. We open up immediately where that chapter ended. Kaku's down. Lucci says this is a bitter pill to swallow, and he goes to attack. And Stussy criticizes him after using Paper Art's Heartbreak Afterimage, which is literally just an afterimage, and says, so when you don't understand, your first instinct is to go for the kill. Which, yeah, we've known that for a while. That is just his immediate, boom, that's it. And it seems like she has sea stone lipstick? And that's how she's draining? That's how she made Kaku pass out? And she bites Lucci, and he calls her a bitch, which I don't know how frequently is said in the TCB scans, but, he just straight up says, you bitch. And she says, I know how strong you boys are. Fighting you fair and square would have been stupid. Forgive me. It's that's how she knocked Kaku out. It's not like she's a fucking succubus. Dude, she just has lipstick of sea stone. That's so smart. Oda is fucking smart. Sea stone lipstick. I never thought of that. Brooke being Brooke says, what? Just a moment. What is this? Why are the CP0 agents at each other's throats? And Zoro says it's friendly fire. And Stussy pulls out a Den and says, this is Stussy. I put them both to sleep. And one of the Vegapunks says, that's fantastic news. Stussy came through. York, pull it together. And Usopp asks what the fuck is going on. Rightfully so. And Nami also asks, Lucci was beaten. How? And Shaka says, no doubt he was taken by surprise. Her loyalty to me was kept secret even after she spent 20 years as one of their agents. This dude, Vegapunk had a mole in the intelligence branch, as somebody says, of the Marines for years. Probably with the knowledge of eventually they're going to try to kill me, so I might as well have a mole. That is so fucking smart. And he says that wasn't our intention, but that's how it turned out. But, still, that's so smart. And Stussy says, Doctor, unfortunately, my authority level is the same as Lucci's, so I can't override his orders to stop the Seraphim. So, the Seraphim are still about to march on the lab. But Shaka, or one of the other Vegapunks, says, you've done plenty, Stussy, we're on our way. And we see the Seraphims are attacking when one of the Vegapunks says this, and Zoro starts running and says, we need to stop those runs before they flatten the others. And Brooke responds, right, and is it just me, or do these kids look familiar? So we have to remember, Zoro and Brooke do not know what the fuck is going on. Completely and utterly, in the dark for this. And Zoro says, I know, in reference to, obviously, the Seraphim looking familiar. Which, I like the question. I'd like to ask a question, right? Brooke, being a pirate skeleton who is super old, right? He has to have a decent memory to be able to remember all, his life. So, how the fuck does he not recognize Jinbei, Kuma, who he met on fucking Sabati, and on top of that, right? On top of that, how the fuck? How in the actual fuck does nobody recognize the Jinbei Seraphim that doesn't need to? So, like, the other Straw Hats, like, knew that it was a clone of Jinbei, whatever, so they knew. But, like, you would think after they've sailed with Jinbei, at least for a little bit, that, like, they should recognize him! They should so recognize the fucking Seraphim of their crewmate, man! That's not just me being, like, an ass and, like, criticizing, but, like, it kinda is. Okay. I just read the rest of the chapter so that I can kind of just breeze through it. Apologies that this is so disconnected from the rest of it. My laptop is just unreliable. So Zora recognizes the Jinbei Seraphim, but the Mihawk Seraphim goes to attack. And he blocks it, and he realizes that there's a little bit of humanity left in it, and still wonders what the fuck they are. And then Edison goes flying the small Vegapunk body, but Sanji saves him, brings him back. Stussy has Lucci and Kaku tied up with Sea Stone, so they are pretty much out of the fight unless they can somehow get untied. And Luffy's looking for where Bonnie and Vegapunk are, main body Vegapunk. And then we cut to Whitebeard's home island, and we see that Marco's made it there after Wano. He's safe. And the kids that were there, because remember, Whitebeard's home village was protected by Whitebeard so that no one that he knew or their families would be ever endangered, but they're not affiliated with the world government. So some of the Marines came in while Marco was gone and started ransacking the place looking for Whitebeard's treasure, and was about to shoot an old lady until Weevil showed up. And this was one of those theories I talked about with the cloning led to a whole bunch of theories. One of them was that Weevil is a clone of Whitebeard, but he's being held together with, like, stitches and staples, and that's why he has that look. So that he's a failed Mads clone, and Mads tried to clone every single one of the Rocks Pirates. Because even if you think about it, there is a very strong, I guess, obsession with the Rocks Pirates. Because Vegapunk made a version of Kaido's fruit, but it turned out pink, which is not that bad. Buckingham Stussy is cloned successfully, and Weevil could potentially be a clone of Whitebeard, which is another member of the Rocks Pirate. So that leads some credence to the fact that, like, maybe Luffy is a clone of Roger because they're from that era, but I heavily doubt it. So I heavily doubt it. But Luffy could be a clone of Roger using the logic of the obsession with the Rocks Pirates. But Weevil comes in, beats the Marines up, and they sent in reinforcements, apparently sent by Ryokyugyu, and arrested Weevil. And the real Stussy wants Weevil to get back, to be released, and she told Marco that that he needs the help. And Marco still doesn't really believe that Weevil is Whitebeard's son, so Stussy says that Vegapunk can prove it, which leads more credence to the clone theory. But yeah, that's going to be it for this mega review. Like I said, if it's chopped up, if there are certain sections that are all or like cut, I'm saying one thing then another, my laptop is super unreliable for these. This is one reason why I don't want to do super long recordings, because they kind of start falling apart. The whole point of doing one long recording was so I didn't have to do anything in OBS, but odds are, not OBS, Premiere, but odds are I'll put the file into Premiere, cut out any long pauses that are a result of my computer freezing up. But yeah, so this has been my review of 1070, 1071, 1072, 1073, and my thoughts, my review, my kind of breakdown, light breakdown. But yeah, I'm hoping that I start doing these weekly again. I can't really say for certain if they're going to be,
because like I said, doing them weekly kind of burns me out. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to end recording here, put this into Premiere, chop out any long blank bits, probably while watching The Witcher, because I want to watch that finally. And then probably tomorrow I'll record the chainsaw review for the aquarium arc. Yeah, that's my life. But yeah, until next time, stay safe, have fun, and read more manga. Okay, guys. Bye.